If you've always wanted to support the show with your hard-earned cash, now's the time to pause, go to Patreon, and search out FNRad. Join one of our tiers. You'll get ad-free episodes every week, one day early, plus more cool stuff. The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Skyview Campers, Never Summer's innovative take on the tiny home. Designed and built in beautiful Colorado, check out skyviewcampers.com. Wired Snowboards builds quality snowboards by hand 10 minutes away from my house. Visit wiredsnowboards.com and order one today. Fixed bindings are easy to adjust, long-lasting, high-performance bindings built to have less impact on the environment. Check out fixedbindingco.com. Rip Curl outerwear is designed to search further in the snow, offering strength, durability, and all-around performance. Whether you're venturing into the backcountry or on the resort, Rip Curl outerwear's got you covered. With a team that includes Chris Rasman and DCP, you can be confident that Rip Curl prides itself on creating jackets and pants with technical features that will keep you comfortable on your search. The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, best selection, best prices, Vancouver's premier snowboard shop. Go to boardroomshop.com and use code FNRAD10 to save 10% off your next purchase. New Greens, 100% organic, vibrant green juice. Buy yourself some at newgreens.com and use code FNRAD at checkout for 20% off. And for a chance to try New Greens for free, listen to the end of the show. The Haven's a center for transformational learning located on beautiful Gabriola Island. Plan a visit at haven.ca and use code FNRAD at checkout to save 10% off their Come Alive program. Driving into the San Bernardino Mountains for the very first time, I felt a similarity to the Ghost Mountains here where I live in Vancouver. Only these mountains were a reasonable drive outside of sunny Southern California beaches where you could have gone for a surf in the morning and still made it to Big Bear Lake in time for lunch. Returning to San Diego, I was super stoked to line up this interview with all-time legend Jussi Oksanen. Jussi's filmed over 20 rad video parts, won at least 7 X Games medals, and has designed 15 pro models on Burton alone. Jussi is one of those ubiquitous pros who will always be celebrated as one of the best to ever snowboard for a living. He lives a few blocks from the beach and still makes it up snowboarding and pow surfing quite a bit in the winter. Hatchet, did you see Hatchet's new film? Flying High?
No,
again?
I gotta watch it.
Did he invite you to film?
No.
Would you film again?
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
Yeah, where we left off was that you basically had an experience with an avalanche where you just were like, fuck that, I'm done. And then you just, from there, you never went back professionally as a snowboarder? Is it?
Yeah, that's, I think he was definitely like building up to that moment in lots of different ways and traveling with being away from a family and, you know, just doing it for that many years. My body was definitely had some wear and tear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it just like once that happened, it was just like, okay, I just done.
Time out, like a tap out.
Yeah.
That's that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. And so with your connections from the industry, you were able to pivot pretty quickly to like a job where you start, like, what did you do?
Yeah,
you start a company and stuff?
Went back to Mizu, which we started it with Brad, 2008. So we had Tim, who was our CEO. He was running the company, and then I was sort of like, okay, now I can just go back and be a normal worker bee. And
how did that work out for you?
Yeah, it was fun because I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. Learned a lot, like how to run a business.
Yeah,
I was kind of running the marketing side of things, but you learn a lot how like ins and outs, like manufacturing, all the just how to you know operationally how companies work, and also learn a lot from like marketing, like what I'm doing commercial photography now, just so like learning that side of things too, like A, shooting more, getting back into shooting, but B, like how you utilize the photography in the sales, because I was running the e-commerce and social media, and so I'd see the conversions. And
That's
like,
pretty early on for
so,
those platforms, right?
Yeah, totally. So, but yeah, I think that was super helpful to learn like some of the like the back ends, because if you think about like photography, it's like, yeah, there's definitely like that side where it's the production and it's actually like taking photos, but there's so much other things that like is behind the scenes, like working with client and knowing what they want and like be easy to work with and like understand what they want, not what you want, and
Right.
a lot of those things that I sort of learned from being on that side at Mizu. So
That's sick.
cool.
That's sick. Did you become a weekend warrior snowboarder at that time, or did you put it away for a couple of years while the boys were young?
Yeah, it sort of like I just wanted to have a break. You know, I think it was just, you know, I started snowboarding when I was 10, and so
wow,
25 years full gas. So
full gas.
Yeah, so I just wanted to have a break, and I wanted to spend time with the family, be super present.
Things were winding down in the snowboard industry around that time, if I'm not mistaken. I think especially around the old way of doing things, where your team films a project, you do a movie premiere, and everybody turns up in a big theater all around the world. And there was a couple of years there where it's like they were poorly attended. They're still flying you guys around. You know, you go to the Burton premiere.
Yeah.
I remember going in Vancouver and being like, holy shit, Jeremy Jones is here. Yusi's here. Like, what the fuck? There's like 5 of us here.
Yeah.
There's more of them than there are of us. Movie was great.
Yeah.
It was fine. But social media was starting to ramp up and change the landscape in a way that was just like nobody knew how to pivot yet.
Yeah, it was definitely that transition. And then also, like, you know, you have to, like, kind of weigh, like, risk versus reward.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, when
you kind of see, like, okay, this is not really going direction where I'd see it's worth my while jeopardizing my body, which is already kind of half broken. So it's like you start weighing, like, okay, like, what is the next, what is the future looking like? And it wasn't looking good. So then, like, the decision, like, for so many different, you know, parts of it, it was fairly easy to, like, make a call that it's time to move on.
One of the things about your generation of snowboarding, you start when you're a kid, 10 years old. Like, you're very young. When did you get your first sponsorship? You were, like,
so I was
14,
10,
15
I think I was,
something?
like, 15, 16.
Yeah, and you came over to America as a young kid, and like you were on a great team with Lamar and the whole thing. But you actually watched, like, when you think of Nagano '98 and what was going on at the pinnacle of, you know, like Innsbruck Aaron Style, Daniel Frank. You know, it's gonna get one with a 10 maybe, or a 7 maybe even. And as you're coming up as the top tier pro, shit has gotten so big that it's not even the riders that are deciding what the thing is. It's like, okay, the TV wants it, you know, the production for the TV needs a jump that's just, it's so stupidly big. Like, if you go back and watch your parts now and then watch what pro snowboarding is doing now, because there's not the MacDog standard film cutting room floor of everything, and the brands are doing their own videos, you're guaranteed you're in the video because you're on the brand. So the incentive to break yourself off, plus the infrastructure to build those huge features, isn't there anymore. So snowboarding's kind of gone smaller, in my opinion, but everything's stylish and technical and beautiful. But we're not seeing never been dones. You know what I mean? We're not seeing new zones opening up with bigger jumps. Like, it pinnacled at where you were at the top of the game, in my opinion.
Well, it's all like phases, right? Like each, you know, there's like, you know, if it's whatever 10-year slots, like you know, that like late 90s, 80s and early 90s, like that was like kind of grassroots, super skatey. You know, that was like that block. You know, like
Yep.
super cool.
Yep.
And then it was like my era where it's like big jumps, you know, way too many cheese wedges. But that was that era, and I think like now it's kind of like maybe I don't know, like maybe it seems like there are a lot of cool stuff. Like
Oh, yeah, the
more
progression.
grassrootsy stuff is epic. You
Sure.
know, there's a lot of that stuff,
Yeah.
and now it seems like the contest era is kind of what's peaking right now.
Sure. Well, progression in the streets too, and I'm not like a street guy. That's not my like first choice.
Yeah.
But like whenever I see a street movie, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They're jumping through windows of broken buildings and dropping down, you know, big parking structures, and it's like it's super duper gnarly.
Yeah.
It's
cool.
Yeah. But then you see the guys on the jumps, and you're like, oh, okay, he's doing a front three on that. Right. I'm pretty sure that was like somebody did a switch 10 on it,
Yeah.
you know, 20 years ago.
I mean, I don't know the names. I don't really follow, but it's
Yeah.
seeing like FNRad and what those guys do. Like, they're still sending it. You know?
Oh, absolutely,
There's some
absolutely, yes,
cool stuff. So,
yeah. But there's not like one video that goes across multiple brands.
Yeah.
That's showcasing simply the best snowboarding ever.
Elvis in the house.
It doesn't seem like that's the mode right now. Whereas the mode where you were in it was like there were these like movies to shoot for, and they put a lot of pressure on you guys. I mean, that's where I'm the story I tell myself is that's where Robot Food came out of. Like if we're gonna break ourselves off, why don't we, you know, have some fun doing it too? Like not so serious about like if this isn't an AAA shot, it's just cut from the movie, and you know, you're like, let's make that's how I feel about it.
Oh, for sure. I think we're all on the same page. It was like the standard crew that we broke off, and we just I mean, like what Hatchets did was, I mean, what we learned, and I think for as a crew, like we learned like the fundamentals of like how to be productive and how to be in the mountains, and which is huge. Like without like that standard experience, I think we would have been a complete shit show. But
Right.
bringing that with like having Pierre and like Travis, and like let him kind of go on that creative be in charge of that, and then bring some of that like the fun and skate vibe, and I think one of the things like I think why we were so successful was we always traveled as a crew.
There you go.
Because if you look at back like the Mac Dog movies or even Burton movies, like I wouldn't know what anybody else did in the Mac Dog movie because I was with two other guys.
Yep.
Or the Burton ones, like it was just me and Mikey, and that's it. I had no idea what other people were doing.
Interesting.
So like when we were doing the Robo Food stuff, like if we went to Europe as a 15 dudes.
Sick.
And so like you break away, like, you know, you're a little group during the day, but then like you all hang out, have lunch together, have breakfast together, go ride if it's a shitty day. Like I think that just created this super like a good bond, and it just, I think it was just authentic because that's what we were doing. Like we didn't try to really like force anything, you know?
Yeah.
It was just that was the vibe.
Now 20 years later, having heard some of the stories about how hard people will get pushed, like, you know, the forum crew, you know, has come out, some of the people have come out and been like, it was kind of wacky. Like Ville was like, dude, they were trying to say, oh, don't you want to be better than so-and-so? I hear they already got clipped up with a 9 off of this or whatever, like to try and motivate each other. But it was, the motivation wasn't coming from like a fun team kind of way. It was coming from a like
competitive.
Yeah, you want to be on the best fucking team in the world. You better throw this shit down.
Yeah, I heard about that. I never had that, and maybe it was different with Burton. Like, I think you already knew, like if you if you had a shitty year, or if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, like you're most likely out. Like that.
Really,
Just,
that was the feel of the Burton.
Yeah, and
the
it
Burton
wasn't like
pro
Burton.
team.
It's just like a nature of the sport. Like if you're,
Yeah,
and I think like that's was a beautiful thing about snowboarding in the sense that like you kind of free to roam, but you know kind of what your role is or what like how you need to be productive.
Yep.
For the companies, but and at least that like Burton, like we had René at the time, like he wasn't drilling us like, hey, like you're really blowing it or whatever. Like you just wouldn't get signed.
Right.
So like I think there was some riders that sort of didn't kind of didn't manage themselves in the right way, and in some ways it's a shame that there wasn't that communication from the companies. Like if you look at like normal work environment, like it'd be like, hey, heads up, like, hey, you need to like step up the game or whatever, you know.
I understand.
But it was
totally.
So I never felt the pressure. It was more just those are just like fundamentals of like being a pro snowboarder. So I just like knew that like if you're not productive or you're not taking care of your part of the bargain, then yeah, it's fair game. You know? Sometimes it's just not a right match.
Yes.
You know, like it's just you're just not synced.
Imagine Jamie
or whatever. Like,
Jamie Lynn or Devin gets on Burton.
Yeah.
You know, it's
like imagine Jamie like riding for Forum when it was like, you know, like
exactly.
It's like no, that's not the right dude for that kind of program.
Dude, right.
So it's
imagine
might be something like that, you know.
Imagine Noah was on Forum. I know that they were talking with him. That would have been a whole different deal. Were you a Noah fan? Who were your guys when you were growing up?
So it was so for me it was like the Scandies were
big time.
My heroes. It was Johan, Ingemar, Daniel Frank, and Terje. Those were like
bam
the superheroes. And then obviously it was like the early Mac Dog day, so it was, you know, it was the Jamie Lynn for sure, Brushy,
Peter, someone, of course.
Devin, you know the guys, that's like, but yeah, the Scandies were definitely like huge influence for me. I think like Daniel and Ingemar, like for style wise, and I think it's like I could sort of like I could see myself like I grew up in the same type of mountains, not hills really, like, but like we all like grew up riding pipe. You know, I could relate to those dudes. So
that's very cool.
It kind of felt like, okay, like, oh, these guys are like riding mountains now. Like, I think I could do that, you know? And I do like appreciate the style too. Like, you know, what Ingemar was doing, like, and it was cool. Like he was riding pipe.
Yep.
And he was riding jumps and doing all that stuff. And then obviously Terje, like he was always like, I used to watch him ride pipe, like on the VH tapes that we used to record, and it was just I never forget. I think he was I can't remember which contest it was, maybe like 94, one of the ISF ones, and on the first hit he did a hand plant.
Wow.
And then the second hit, it went bigger than anyone. And I was like, okay, like I gotta figure out how this guy like drives his edge and stuff. And I think it was just like incredible.
I think that's what gets lost in generations. I mean, obviously, if you go back and look at how much better than everyone he was at the time, you could see that. But I think it gets lost that what he was doing didn't make sense to even the next pros in the, you know what I mean? Like, he was so good at generating speed in a half pipe that he kind of combined the technical, you know, perfection of like a Craig who was really studying it, and then that going big like Sean Palmer style of just like boosting. All of a sudden you had Terje who could do both and make it look really, really good. Yeah. That's why so many pro snowboarders will say greatest of all time. He was just so far ahead of the curve.
But I think riding half pipe like teaches you a lot. Like it's that speed and that edge control, and I think when you grow up riding pipe like that, and then you take it to the mountains, I think it you really like transitions. Like you look at Nicholas, Freddie, you know, Ben. Like I mean, there's a lot of these guys, you know,
Yeah.
like they definitely have like different style. Like you can kind of tell like that they know how to carve and,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
Jake Blauvelt, like, you know, that
Right.
type of, yeah.
Yeah, it's sick. It's sick. That era is so good because I mean, we also were from, like, you know, a few years before that, being a pro snowboarder was like not even a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who was a pro snowboarder might, you know, make a couple $100 a month or something, and now all of a sudden it was legit, and then bam, they're going to do the Olympics, and then all of a sudden at the second Olympics, the Americans sweep it, and then it becomes this like super mainstream thing, and Ride goes public, and everybody's talking about snowboarding for this. All of a sudden, it was just this limelight and money on snowboarding, and that's when it got so big. That's the incentives for you guys to break stuff off was like legitimate bank accounts that are growing.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that was, and super grateful for like some of these guys that came up and kind of pioneered snowboarding, you know,
Yes.
and we just got lucky with the timing. And sure, we were making good money, but if you think about it, like what we're doing, like what we're risking, you know, and what companies we're making, like we're making good money, but like relatively like average, you know, I think.
That is,
You know, like
yeah,
I'm certainly
yeah.
grateful. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I've nothing but like, you know, grateful for what we got, and honestly, like Burton too. I think they were pretty fair, you know, like not only with our salaries, but it was more just like the marketing side of things, you know, like we're the sales meetings and the trips, and like, you know, they spend a lot of money on that. So like props for them to like kind of, you know, putting a lot of money in the team of marketing. So that was
they look
cool.
like a really legitimate snowboard brand that came from snowboarding roots, stayed snowboarding the whole way through, and they had, you know, when Craig moved over from Sims, that was the turning point. From that point on, Jake was like, I'm going to listen to the riders. Did you get to, I think I asked you in the last time, you get to sit on that couch in Jake's office and just shoot the shit with Jake from time to time?
Yeah, we had some meetings, and he was just super chill. Like he just wanted to hang out, you know, and like we'd go like on the sales meetings, like we'd go in a small group, just go hike and do his little run. And I think those were like the most special things, because you just see how much he loved it. Like for us, like going in stove and icy day with like 2 inches pow, and like I'm like, oh, this is crap. Like, what are we doing here? And then like you do his run where like you have to sort of like hike out, and just seeing how stoked he was, like that to me was like, okay, like this guy's real. Like he loves this so much.
He
and,
put his
and
heart
he just
and soul
wants
into
to.
it, yeah.
You could tell he just wanted to share that joy with other people, you know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean, he was obviously business savvy, and
but you
also,
have to. Yeah.
Also the thing when I went to Burton, because I hadn't been to the headquarters before. A couple of years back, I interviewed Donna there, and I was actually going there to like, you know, hardball journalism. Why did you let Terrier go? Like, what a fucking nightmare this is. Like, you guys shouldn't have done that. But by the time I got there and I saw the big operations and everything, I kind of threw her some softball questions about it, and I went, "Oh yeah, that sounds right." But being there, I was like, "This is 700 people working here.
Yeah.
This isn't." Jake wasn't like in touch with 700 people. He had a company that he was running where major decisions were put by him. Plus, he was like dealing with health issues and shit like that.
Yeah.
So, like, and there were different departments that were in charge of different shit, right? Like you had team managers. It wasn't like you called up Jake and he called you and said, "Hey, you want to be on the team?" And you're like, "Shit, Jake Burton, yeah, fuck yeah." And then he's like, "Okay, well, this is what I was thinking for money," and it's not like that. He was like a figurehead, right? And
but you have to. I mean, that's like otherwise you wouldn't exist, you know, as a brand and be able to do all these cool things and and grow and
innovate.
Yeah, innovate and end of the day, like what he did for snowboarding, like if it wasn't for Jake, like, you know, probably snowboarding wouldn't look like the way it does today.
Oh, for sure it wouldn't.
Like whether it's product or the fact that like how he like got snowboarding to all the ski resorts and like pioneered some of that, like that was massive.
And even team riders and contracts and contests, all these things that he had his finger in. We're lucky that we had a Jake, but we're also lucky we had all the other you know, guys that were doing these small brands. And even Burt Lamar came from skateboarding, was a professional skateboarder as a kid, and so he knew how the skateboard thing worked. You know, and Lamar marketing was really, really good. But then, I mean, Lamar's not around anymore. It's not a big deal to say the boards weren't that good. They really were not.
They were
world-class
terrible
boards. But you got you and Kevin Jones. Like, he was winning, you know, Rider of the Year on these kind of shit boards.
Oh, yeah.
And then he went to Genius, which I guess they were land boards. They were fine. But they weren't epic. What was it like getting to go to Burton, and did you help like sit with JG and the designers and like design your board? And
it was I mean, like my Lamar boards, they, like you said, they were probably the worst snowboards ever. Like, and I filmed, so my TB8 part, that was filmed on my snowboard pro model, which is really bad. And that was like tough because it was like, for me, coming from parked in riding in the powder with like very cheaty, sloppy board, you know.
Right.
So, that definitely didn't help. But yeah. So when I got on Burton, when Lamar got bought out, I had a few different options, and then it was lip deck. It was like one of the things that I was considering.
Who was the lib team at that time?
We had some conversations. I can't remember. It was I was mostly working with Steve, but I got some boards. I absolutely loved the boards. They were insane.
Yeah, rad.
But then I had Burton, and then we sort of like we were looking like, as far as like contracts, like I would have made almost double amount of money going like boots, clothing, boards, versus Burton. Like Burton was like half of that. Like separate. It wasn't like
right.
Wasn't great. Like it was, you know, obviously good money, but it wasn't. It was half what I would have made in the next 2 years from just going that way.
Dude.
But for us, it was like, okay, like, you know, it's Burton. And I wasn't a kid that like, obviously I was a fan of Brushy and Terrier, but like I was, I guess, more like coming from skating. Like I never owned anything Burton before. Like I had, maybe I had a couple bindings prior, but like I wasn't like the Burton kid.
You weren't a Burton kid,
know?
Right.
Maybe because we didn't have money, so I just never could afford to buy that. But I was always down for like small brands like Joyrides and like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Atlantis, and that was kind of my vibe. But then when it came to like looking at it, like, okay, like what is my career looking like? What am I gonna like? What do I want to do? Do I want to deal with a bunch of sponsors? Are they going to be around 2 years from now, 5 years from now, or you know, just like, oh, like I don't know, like it's like if I just go here, like just do my thing, you know, it's gonna pay off. And obviously the product was insane. Like once I got on the Burton boards and JG, and they were just like basically just do whatever you want, you know, and start testing boards. And then like really once I kind of got integrated, like talking to the product crew and seeing what the whole like operation looked like and what it meant for me, basically just be like, okay, I don't need to think about anything. I just go snowboarding.
Rad.
And so that's when I decided like that was definitely a way to go. And those that had, I think it was 2-year contract first, and that was probably the best 2 years I had. Like I won US Open, I won X Games. I filmed video parts. Like, it was just like, timing wise, it was perfect.
Yeah.
And so then my contract came up, and then that's where we're able to kind of make it fair after that.
So they got you for cheap for the first 2 years.
And that was great. Like, I think,
dope.
And honestly,
For
like,
them.
that's, to me, like, that's sort of like way to go. You know, that's how I work with a lot of the brands now with the photography too. Like, if it's a good brand and we're kind of like, it's something that I see myself like really like, okay, I could really help you guys. I could do a good job. Maybe the first job is cheap, you know, and it's like, let's see how it goes. Like, like, you might not like my shit, or, and most of the time it has like flourished into this multi-year like working relationship, and so I think it's a way better way to go about it.
Yeah, when they call you back, now they know how your value is added to the brand, and you can just be more of a premium.
You grow together, and that's kind of how it worked out at Burton. We just it kind of grew, you know.
How many years did you do at Burton?
15 years. Yeah, so I had nine pro models, and so super grateful. I mean, it was incredible, and like I said, it was nice to have that sorted out, and then I had Steve helping me with all the that financial side, and so I could just like, okay, like,
you could be the snowboarder.
This is what I need to do.
That's
I need to snowboard for 6 months, and then I party for 6 months, and
unfriggin' believable. What a lifestyle. And like at the perfect timing in snowboarding. So that first year on Burton, I'm just putting this together. When you first film with the Hatchets, you come over and you're on those Lamar boards and you're struggling a bit in the backcountry, and they film with you for a year, and maybe you don't even get a part, or you get like a friend section or a shot or two or something. But then was it a transition to Burton boards, and then
No, it was 98, so I knew I wasn't going to make a part anyways, but I got a chance to film with them, so it was more just because that was when I was in Nagano. I came over for some triple crown. It was like March, and these guys were already like done with their parts pretty much. So I just like, okay, like whatever, like I just, you know, if I can come out, like cool. And I had like a spring session with him. I got a cover for Snowboarder magazine.
Oh, sick.
With Lamar, and just got to meet those guys and kind of see how like everything worked out. I think I might have had like a day or two in the backcountry, and but then we had a park day with Hatchets, and they were like, okay, like this guy can do a couple things in the park. And so that, I think they like, okay, why don't we give him a chance? And that was 99 filming for TB8, and that was, I was still on Lamar.
Oh yeah, you just said that, right?
Yeah, so that was
like that's a great part.
Yeah,
you just milked those boards and just made it work for you.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I mean, if you look at like where we grew up snowboarding, it's like we had shitty gear. At least I always had.
Sure.
Like we didn't have money, so we're, you know, you grew up riding like, I don't know, moon boots, like duct taping them so they can fit in the bindings, and then boards were like, I don't know, whatever you could, if you get a discount somewhere, like I had an Avalanche snowboard, or like just crap.
Yeah.
And then we're riding crap too, like icy Tiny Hill, 150 vertical feet, like so like you just kind of get on with it, you know, like I think that was just, that's what you had, and you love what you did, and you didn't really pay attention to like, oh, like, you know, like I wish my board was this, and you know,
but it was exciting. If you have a shitty board, the next year you see something that's better, and you're like, this is exciting. That was a part of the progression of snowboarding was happening as an industry right in front of us. And so like every year it would be exciting. You'd be like,
but you look at like, you know, Kevin Jones. I mean, he filmed like insane video parts. All his boards sucked.
Right.
You know, and I'm sure like Peter Line, like some of the foreign boards were garbage.
Sure.
You know, so it's like, like it definitely enhances your experience, but I don't think that's make it or break it. You know, if you're good at what you do, like you can get away with some crappy.
You can make it happen.
Well, now I appreciate it. 'Cause
Yeah.
I just got new boots, and I'm like, oh my god, like.
What did you get?
Just some Burton boots.
Yeah. Yeah, are
But
you
they're-
Burton for
they're-
life? Do they know to just like when you need something, you can call them and they just give it to you?
No, not really.
But
I
like,
got a pro form.
Oh, that's brutal. But I
I don't care.
understand.
I understand.
Yeah,
Like that's
I do
just
understand
like
too.
I don't give anything for them, and
Yeah.
but I'm still like, it's like I have a ton of old gear, and I'm just like I love always being with them, and so it's
I
like,
have zero understanding of Burton at any level, really. But like every time they let someone go that I feel like a connection to the brand, like Terrier or JG or Dave Downing, I just get a feeling in my heart of like, oh no, like. But you can't keep all these people just because. I mean, you should. I don't know. I'm torn about it.
Yeah, but I think like we said it before, it's all like faces, right?
It's faces,
And
right?
like I think everything changes constantly, and the hardest part I think is for people that won't let go.
Yes.
In time, like
yes,
I
that's
think,
me. Right, you
like
got it. Yeah.
Like I was aware of like, okay, like I probably at my point when I stopped, I was like, I probably don't provide a whole lot anymore at this point.
Compared to what you've been doing.
Yeah, I could
right,
stick around
right,
for a couple more years, but like I was honest with myself, like, okay, like really, like am I just, they're not gonna pay me to just do powder turns, like I get it, and it was just things are changing, so it's and that's tough, like it can be tough, because it's like, man, like you've been in a certain status or whatever for so long, and all of a sudden like your value is really not there anymore, and it can be tough for sure.
I remember hearing it with Terrier that he was, they some new team manager had come on and wanted to put him on like, not the global A team. And he was like, go fuck yourself. I'm Terrier, as if. But they didn't do the thing that surfing and skateboarding have done fairly successfully, where they've transitioned these like uber pros into the mentors for the team, or like, and some snowboard companies have done it. I mean, Jamie's still on Lib. That's unbelievable. He was in high school when he started, drawing graphics for them and riding boards for Lib and Gnu for Mervyn, and now he turned 50 this year and he's still got a promo. It's like,
but that's
wow.
Like, and that's cool. Like he is providing. Like,
yes,
he does cool art. He's a awesome advocate for them. And I'm not saying that like the people who are in the game, they're game for a reason. Like they provide value and there's a relationship there, and I think it's amazing. I was just more looking at like my point of view, like. For me, I was looking at it like really kind of like, okay. Like,
I got you.
I'm like, I don't live in the mountains. I live in San Diego. Like, why am I gonna I'm not gonna test your products. Like, I really don't have anything to give.
The value.
You
I got you. I understand what you're saying totally. Yeah. I guess what I'm actually saying is it's too bad that Burton never developed that program. Where Brushy's still riding. I mean, he left for a ride, so like, how do you do that? But they're reissuing his board now, and they've got like a cool reissue system. But if they had a heritage program where they just had these like A-list pros like yourself, that's just, you don't have any responsibility. But if you're riding your shit, you're riding Burton shit. I think. Or something in between, like as a marketing mind and as a machine at the biggest snowboard company in the world, which I think they are. It's hard to say. That I'm surprised they didn't come up with something like that. And I'm actually thinking, maybe it's because Craig passed away and they can just have Craig forever because he never switched to another brand. Because he never got to the end of his value, like what you're saying. And I don't know how I feel about that. Personally.
No, it's rough. Like, seeing Terrier not being there, I think it doesn't feel right.
It doesn't.
And it's like, I was with him last summer. I went to Norway. My son had a soccer tournament there, so I was there for 10 days, and it was so good to hang out with him. But
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, he is like snowboarding a lot, and
He is. That's
he
true.
knows product, and like I think
Yes.
there's still like, I think he's one of those guys who would give a lot of value in lots of different ways.
I think so too.
But it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, it's people, it's business, it's relationships. There's history. There's all kinds of stuff that we have no idea. And
Yeah.
things go the way they go, and
I'm stoked that he's getting support from the industry still, and I think he's partnering with multiple snowboard companies and having like the different models on different companies as long as they don't overlap, right? Like he's not gonna have a twin tip board on two different companies, but he's gonna have like POW shape here and maybe have more
That's
all
sick.
mountain. Yeah, it's so sick. He'll always be supported by the industry.
I mean, honestly, like there's like some of those like genetically just gifted people. Like Terry is just one of them. Like he's like, you could put him on anything and he would figure out. In a couple days. Like, oh, okay, this is how I do it. Like,
did you do team trips with him? Was he competitive on team trips
did,
or anything
yeah,
like that?
we did some photo shoots. I filmed with him couple trips. But he wasn't like, he was just like more powder. He was just on his program, you know?
He was going into the backcountry. And
but I have to say feel so lucky that I was still in that era, like where I saw him competing.
Rad.
In pipe, like late 90s. Like I was 97, I was, there was a contest in Aura, and there was a bunch of ISF contests where it was like just seeing him ride live. Just, you know, I'm just, that's kind of, and that like, honestly, like for like standard days too, like those are like seeing Noah ride. And
you saw Noah ride in those standard days, like live?
Obviously I was a fan of Noah, but like once you see these guys ride live, like it's like off the chart. Like your appreciation level goes next level, and like Terry is one of them. Like you know, once you see them riding pipe, how they get speed and how they like, it's like how
it's like, incredible.
And it's just, it's, to me, whatever you do when you do it like a highest level and you're beyond, like higher than anybody else in a high level, like you can see that and you feel that energy, and it's just, I think it's super magical. Like like the standard days too, like, for me as a skateboarder and like the freestyle guy, like looking at Johan and Ingemar and these guys, they were definitely my, you know, somebody that I looked up to. But you know, if Tom Burt had a part, it was like instant fast forward.
Totally.
You know, it's like, oh, like
no offense, like, TB, but it's just like.
But when I saw Tom Burt ride,
I
was like, oh my God, like I'm so sorry I ever had these feelings.
Right.
And it's just like you watch him snowboard some of these, like I watched him snowboard this line. It wasn't even line. It was like vertical cliff, but somehow like the way snow. Like the storm hit this wall that like snow stuck, and you could kind of ride it, but it didn't like make any sense. And I was just, after he did that, I was like, okay, like I can't even like comprehend, like I can't even like imagine like how I would even like try to figure out how to like tackle this thing. So you just have like a whole different appreciation, and so. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I feel grateful for my career, just seeing some of these people operate. You know, I've watched Nicholas Miller ride in Alaska, and it's the same thing. It's like, it was, I honestly, like, I think it was the last trip I went with Nicholas, and that was the last trip I ever went to Alaska. I'm like, I'd never need to come here. I'm never going to be, like, that level. It does not make any sense. I'm wasting my time. Like, you know, like, these guys, like, let them have it. That's what they do. They just next level. Like, it doesn't matter what I would do. I would never, like, be even close.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, on top of that as well, while you're competing with what will turn out to be, you know, especially on jumps. I guess they're doing stuff now, like when I watch X Games or Olympic slope style. Is that even what it is? I don't even know. I'm not a competitive snowboard watcher. and they do like 2 jumps in a row or 3 jumps in a row, and you're just like, holy fuck, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Like your era, the jumps were just kind of one-offs, but they were fucking massive.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the jumps look smaller now, but they're doing crazy shit. But there's less of this like kind of one-off, like super jumps, like the pyramid gap, or like you know what I'm talking about. The jumps got fucking insane. I remember Chad Otterstrom talking about dropping in at his local hill and warming up on like 100-foot park jump that was built by the mountain. The mountain's not doing that now.
Yeah.
And who is hitting 100-footer just for like a warm-up run, you know? It's nuts.
Yeah, it's gone bananas. But it is like, I mean, I don't really necessarily like enjoy watching that stuff, but like, not that I don't really follow snowboarding much anymore, but like what I've seen, it's like, I don't get it. I don't like, whether you spin like whatever these figures are, I can't even like, I had to actually like what is like, how many spins is
they're into
1800?
I think they're into 2000s now. I think somebody broke the 2000s. But it is like,
right. So impressive.
Sure,
like,
sure.
It just, I'm just so impressed like that's like what these kids are doing, and it's so normal. But I think it's cool. I think it's like anything. It's like we got a skate spot here, Poots and Encinitas, and sometimes like I pick up my son there, and I go there and just drink coffee and watch some of these kids. Same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Bananas.
Skateboarding's insane.
Or like Seaside, that's our little surf break, and you watch these Groms, like, they 4 foot, like weigh like 90 pounds, and they just like slaying some like crazy flips and 540s, and you're just like, holy shit, like it's really cool, man.
That's dope that you don't have that attitude of like, oh, not in my day. In my day, you wouldn't get away with doing some shit like that. No, it's like progression's still happening. The sport belongs to the kids that are pushing and that progression.
That's where
it's
like
dope.
the whoever is there doing it, they bring it snowboarding where they want to bring it.
Right.
And maybe segment it a little bit. Like you have the contest guys, rail guys, but like those guys are in charge.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think the contest is maybe more like the X Games, whoever is like creating these slopestyle courses or whatever.
Yeah.
Like maybe there could be a little bit more creativity there.
Totally. I think that's what one
maybe
for,
riders
for
could have
Red,
a little bit more say. Like, hey, like this is the direction we'd like to go, and we're unified, and this is like where we're gonna take it. Maybe there's not that much say for what these guys want.
Well, that was kind of awesome about the ISF era, was that it was built into the formula, that the riders had their say, that the event promoters had their say, and that I think it was maybe I forget who the other other people were, like people that were building the jump or whatever, but the riders had like a 33% say. So you guys could actually say at an ISF event, this isn't safe. We're not going to ride this.
Yeah.
But then the nature of the beast, you've got kids that are coming up that are like, I'll ride this. I'll ride the shit out of this.
And I get it. Like, I remember being that kid, I was like, I don't care. Like, just sheety jump, whatever. Like, send it. Like,
send it. You're just make it to the landing. Yeah. Stand it up.
So I get that. Yeah. Like, let these kids go wild, man. Like, that's cool.
Yeah. Were there any trends that you did, like kit style? Like, you didn't have a stylist, you didn't have a coach? Am I right about that?
No
real coach?
No.
So did you have to make, like, would you be going through the catalog going, okay, what jacket and pants am I going to wear next year? Or would you just like go on gut feel? Like,
well, I was with AK for pretty much most of my career, so all the stuff is pretty basic.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Like, we never had some crazy shit. I had a jacket with AK for I think 3 years.
Yeah.
We had the UC Anorak.
Oh, nice. So it was a pullover. That's the best. Was
I loved it. It was
and
sick.
It's gore.
And we
a
had
gore
like
Anorak,
we had a couple like kind of funky colorways and And so that was super fun. But yeah, all the AK stuff was always on point.
Yeah,
Like,
you
that
never
was-
went through a gangster
I
stage.
definitely
but-
went era like
Yeah.
where I feel like I was definitely like a little too baggy, like looking some of the stuff. It's like, ugh.
What era is that?
Ah,
Like still
probably
Lamar?
like mid 2000s.
Oh,
to
wow.
Like pretty far.
Yeah.
Like I was like on that program for probably far too long.
I love it. That's rad.
But-
I mean, it's self-expression. That's
Yeah,
the thing,
yeah.
right? And then
But
you,
my favorite outerwear sponsor was Dub. I was on Dub
Sick.
for
Oh,
2 years, and
nice.
honestly, their stuff was just insane. Like,
Yeah.
it was just cool.
That
Like,
program was
super
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's like, so when I was coming up snowboarding, like, I never, like, the money was never a thing. Like, I signed, I signed like a 5-year contract with Dub for like $300 a month or something. I was like,
Wow.
I just like,
Yeah,
I just,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I was at Billabong, and I was like, they offered me quite, not crazy money, but it was like, at the time, it was like way
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'll go on Dub. Like, I don't really make money, but fuck, this stuff is cool. Like,
That's rad.
And so that was kind of always,
Who was running Dub at that point?
so early days, I think the first Dub was still under Ken.
Yeah.
And then the World Industries bought Dub, and then I think I sort of like when that transition
Oh, World
changed,
Industries
then
bought it.
I
Right,
think my
right.
contract was with World.
Yeah.
So when I signed with Burton, I had to
Give it up.
let go.
Let
Dub.
go your
But I was
$300
on
a
a
month.
5-year contract.
Oh, no way. But they didn't come after you.
No,
didn't
they
give a
were
shit.
cool. I
Yeah.
think they knew that where I was going, and yeah, I was super lucky. And same thing with Lamar. Like I got out of my contract a year early when Bert sold Lamar, and so I got out of that too. And so
Yeah, that was tough because a lot of people got screwed over by that sale.
yeah,
Because I think Salter bought it, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he wasn't really, at that point, he wasn't really supporting the athletes. He was like, I'm going to make
I
some
think
money.
he's still on the same program.
It's hard to say. I'm trying to get him to call fucking Travis Rice. I'm like, dude, you've got Travis Rice on your brands. You need to do the money plus the heart of snowboarding, because the shit that Travis is doing, with natural selection and shit, he should have a master's class for that where he invites you guys, like if you want to just go, on some less insane shit and just like showcase just like some names. You know what I mean? Like you said, I'm not going to just go ride powder, but like if it was perfect powder, right? And you were invited and you're hanging with
Oh, for
all
sure,
those
yeah.
dudes, like how rad of an event would that be? Jamie, you should link that up, make amends with some of the people that you screwed over, because there were quite a few people,
Yeah.
big names that Salter bought their shit and then
Yeah.
they were super bummed.
Yeah.
But so you got out of the Lamar thing kind of unscathed.
Yeah, so I got out of that. I got out of Dub, and yeah, and I do think like as much fun in that was having all those things, like I did learn that okay, like riding for Lamar means like I get a check one month for like $774, and another month like $422. I was like, oh,
What?
It's like, okay,
The hell
I'm not
was
getting
that?
paid, but like these are really weird. And like Dub was the same, and like, I think that's when I was ready to appreciate somebody like Burton, where okay, like money's coming on time.
Here's a real contract.
Like I don't
and
need to worry
these
about
numbers are
like
the
need
numbers.
to,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sort that stuff out. So as cool as it was, I guess I graduated.
Did you
from-
did you get to meet Ken and those guys?
Yeah, I met Ken early. Like when he was at DC, so he had a drawers, Dub and DC. So I met with him a couple times, and I was getting flowed by all those brands.
Yep. Sick.
Like I don't know, like 97-ish or something like that. Yeah, it was dope, super dope.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just showed me your office there and all the pennies on the wall and just like the pictures you've taken over the course of your life. Like, the one thing that I've noticed is that there's a lot of joy in your snowboard history, because there's a lot of people where it's bitterness, or it's they got badly injured, or they've they went out in a way that they're not that psyched about. The industry stopped supporting them or whatever.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of kind of tragedy in snowboarding, but it seems like your love of the sport like lasted your entire career.
Yeah, I think I mean, definitely was lucky, but at the same time, I think I always was I didn't sign up to make money in snowboarding. Like, I never knew that was possible.
Right.
So like that fact that we did, that was just incredible. Like I'm really, at the end of the day, it's snowboarding, right? Like you playing with this board on the mountains. Like, I definitely like grew having gratitude for just what we're doing. Like I was in touch with like how privileged we were doing what we're doing and making money and having freedom to do what we did. Like,
what did your dad do when you were growing up? Was he a professional?
He had a construction company.
Yeah.
So I started working for him in the summers when I was 12. So I've kind of started like making money, and that's how I was able to like buy my stuff and get on a few trips to Norway and stuff like that. So,
was he pretty, like, the whole way through, was he fairly supportive of what you were doing?
Yes and no. Like, I think my parents, they didn't really have opinion. Like, they were just like, I think there's just so many like busy doing stuff.
Yeah.
They weren't supporting it in they weren't like the typical like a soccer, hockey.
They weren't taking you
but
to
they were like,
contests
they
and all
had
that stuff. Yeah.
freedom for me to do that.
Yeah.
And go ahead, and I think I mean, there was definitely like some crossroads. I think it was like after the Olympics when I got offered like 6 figures from Nokia. I don't know if we talked about that before. But,
I don't know if we talked about it.
But it was like, that was sort of like, so that was, Nokia was a main sponsor for the FIS tour in Europe.
Yep.
And I was making, I don't know, maybe 20 grand a year or something like that at the time.
From your sponsors, right.
And I said no. I was like, I'm not doing it. Fuck that. Like,
we did talk about it because your dad flipped,
and
right?
that was like when my dad, like, he just lost it. He just couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
But he came around, like, after, like, I think it took him a few years and figure out, like, okay, like, you did the right call. You knew what you're doing. So that's
incredible.
That was really cool.
Do you still feel now, as the adult you are now, like you're glad you didn't take that money?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It would have destroyed my career. Not career, but like, I don't think I would have even gotten started.
Right.
Because I would have had to stay Europe, compete these, like, nobody was, like, the people that were competing, it was like, in my books, weren't the snowboarders. Like,
right.
The snowboarders were doing, like, the filming and the cool stuff. And
yeah.
And so, I don't know, I think that I was always, like, able to kind of follow my heart and just go with what felt right. And
lucky.
I might
That's
have
awesome.
like dodged a couple bullets there with, like, like signing a couple of wrong contracts, but, like, I don't know, maybe I got like basic fundamentals from my, like, growing up and working, and, like, we didn't have money, like, growing up. Like, we had, like, we didn't grow up poor, but, like,
right.
we didn't have money to, like, I just go buy this. Like,
yeah.
If you wanted it, go work, and so kind of learn, like, the work ethic, and also, like, the value of money, because I think it's important, like, know from young age, like, what it takes to earn your money and what you do with it, and appreciate it.
Yeah, are you teaching your so you have one son or 2 sons?
I have 2. So 15-year-old who's with us. He's a shredder, skateboarder, and then my older son, 17. He just moved to Finland to play soccer. So he played in Philly for a year, and then he moved to Real Salt Lake. He was in Salt Lake for 2 years, and he just signed his first, like, pro contract in Finland. So it's still like
17,
it's
shit.
still like a stepping stone.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pro contract, like, but he's in the right place at the right time. So he's playing. He's 17. He's playing with the men's second team. So he's getting training and like just incredible, like just work ethic.
Yeah.
Naturally, like I don't know, maybe we taught him something, but
yeah.
he just, I mean, he lives kind of up north. It's super cold. He wakes up at 6:30, goes to the gym for an hour and a half, comes home, has a cold shower, does breakfast, goes back on training, does online school, like. Yeah,
that's chaos.
Yeah,
well, you kind
crazy.
Did you have that kind of work ethic when you were in snowboarding? Like, were you training? Sounds like you were partying on the off months, and then as the season ramps up, you probably had some sort of
so
self-discipline.
We definitely had fun for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like if you look at some of my the TV movies, like I was carrying probably like 15 pounds, little taco Jalisco and Doritos and Snapple.
Yeah, nice.
So definitely like maybe learn a hard way there. For after a couple of years, I had some injuries and that was sort of like my turning point. It was around like 2005 when 03 or something, like I started getting hurt a lot and also, like, I think you just realize it's like, okay, this could be over like that, you know? It's like, okay, like, I do care. I do love. I think I carried away a little bit for years. It was like a little bit of a, you got to get that out of the way. We're still working, we're good doing, I was winning X Games and, like, things were maybe, like, looking back, like, happening a little too easy in some ways, because you just, like, you're showing up and party night before X Games and then like get on the podium and then go film. And
I think the kids are still doing that now, though.
Well, that's awesome.
I think from what I've heard, I think there's parents and coaches that are right there, but they're sneaking around and they're trying to, like, where can we get some booze or whatever? Like, I think there's still that like fun, loving, risk-taking aspect of professional snowboarders, even in the contest scene, for sure.
Yeah, but for me, when I started getting hurt, that's when I'm like, okay, I need to like
take it serious.
Not seriously as a whole, but like just take care of myself. Have my body like dialed that I can do what I do, and basically like training in the summer for basically just get ready for prevent injuries.
Right.
And so, got on that program and, which was super helpful. Like, and you just feel so much better.
You're still on it now. You got a sauna here. You got a cold plunge. Like, the typical.
Yeah, I'm like super into it.
Intermittent fasting. You do all that kind of stuff.
No, but we eat healthy and I. Obviously, like, having wear and tear in the body, like, I just had a pretty gnarly, like, flare-up this March. My herniated disc got really bad. Like, my whole left leg shut down. And so then I just went full gas with PT, and, like, it's totally fine now. But I know my body now that, like, if I let go, these old things start really flaring up. So it's like, as long as I'm on the program, like good food, like, doing the saunas and the cold plunge and training. I do a lot of cycling.
Yep.
Which I love. And just healthy outdoors, active. Like
anything for mental health? Like, like, I just attended this place called The Haven, where Kearns is up there now, just working on, self-transformation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Obviously, I think J.P. Walker's talked about it publicly, that he's been up there. A couple of other people that you would know have been to it. It's and it's not one of these ones where you're doing a bunch of psychedelic drugs. It's actually just like personal work, mindfulness, breath work, and that kind of thing. And it's amazing how quickly. Like, because I'm hearing you talk about herniated disc, and then your leg stops working. And when that stuff is happening, a lot of times there's also a mental wellness component to it, where you're like stressing about work, or like, I lost this contract, or something's going on with your kids or your wife or whatever. Was there ever a time where you did some mental health work to?
I think it's more in the last like 5 years, you know, just getting definitely like. I always remember it like Terry. It's like, dude, you gotta start stretching. You gotta start yoga. It's like, yeah, whatever. And then like here we are. Like it's like, I do like stretching, a lot of mobility work now. Like since I had my back thing, I realized where a lot of things were coming from my back. It was a lot of it. It was just tight hips, just from snowboarding and skateboarding. So like doing a lot of mobility stuff, a lot of some yoga, just getting more in tune with yourself, and for me, like the mindfulness, like it is like the cold plunge and the sauna.
Yes.
Like I just kind of zone out, like just nothing, just sort of like, whether it's like a full meditation or not, like I just enjoy that peace and just sort of try to be quiet. And like the cold plunge, same, like 5 minutes, I'm just like basically just breathing.
Yeah.
Like that's when I do my meditation, is like 5 minutes in a cold plunge, and it's just, you just feel so much better.
It's a
like,
lot.
so much better. And I started doing now, like in the morning, like I'm going a lot like on feel. So, but like most mornings I just jump right in the pool for 5 minutes, and then I do my routine, or if I cycle like 3 times a week, like early, like 5:30. Then I might do a little bit of different routine, but I'm basically like every day I'm doing something.
Sick.
And then just going up in the mountains, hiking, and doing like a old people shit, you know. It's so good. Like I love it. Like I'm that guy now, like snowboard, like going like snow surfing. I got like audiobook. I'm like on my own. Like people are like, what is that guy doing? But I'm just like, it's life's so good.
That's dope.
In the trees with my little snow surfer, and
that's epic.
Simple living.
Simple living. Yeah. I think I quit my job this year, and I'm trying to. Thank you very much. And I'm just trying to figure out where that path of happiness is, and just following it.
So you're full time with this. Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, so far since August, and
that's awesome.
It's just fun. It's like, it's weird because, you know, we also have kids, and watching the kids' generation having grown up with phones and social media, and the kind of anxiety that they have now. Like for us, for sure, there was a lot more anxiety for people that were othered in our, you know, like people that felt excluded from, you know, the privileged people that, you know, I was a part of. I felt that for sure, like lots of opportunities, all that sort of thing. Now it seems like the challenge is that there's just too much phone time, and that phone time includes like, here's your perfect life. This is what you should be. It's not a society idea of perfection. It's like you can build your own idea of perfection to an unattainable level, and then beat yourself up about, I'm not there. How come other people are getting there ahead of me? What's going on? So it's a different
I don't know.
world.
I can, like, it's got to be hard to navigate through all that, and I feel super lucky growing up in the era where there's no cell phones. Like, I think maybe where I'm at today, it's where we came from, like just trying to be present. Like even when you're with friends and like talking about Rebel Food days, and even like filming like standard Rebel Food, like no cell phones.
None.
Like you're so present. Like I think it's such a different experience.
Of course.
Like I've like compared to like my last years of filming, like it was great, but like it did not have that connection. Just the way it is. Might have been like I'm part of that or whatever, but it's just like it's. So I think it's very special, you know.
Yeah,
just,
what a time.
Whatever you're doing, like you're just like hashing things out with your friends, and I think you learn from a lot of communication skills and how to navigate that as a person to person, and I think like definitely like I don't know if we lose in that, or maybe there's other things that are better, or who knows, but
Hope so.
I definitely
Yeah.
like I feel like the way I try to live now is sort of like the way we lived back in the you know, back in the 90s.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because that was a great way to live.
Yeah.
Leaving Standard Films, that must have been really difficult. Like, even though it's exciting and you're joining this crew, and then once you get there, you can kind of forget about it. But the actual having to say, like, we're not, you know what, Mike, I'm not coming this year. Like, you're going to want to find some other people. Because I just heard his bomb hole, and I think the timing of it for him, he was like, oh, fuck. Like, he was full speed ahead. Oh, yeah, of course, UC's in. And I'm not just saying you, because it was like a whole, like a big group of his A-listers went to Robot Food.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think he was mad for a season or something, but then he saw what the projects were.
Sure. Yeah.
And then
I mean,
he was like, you know, great, good for you guys.
Yeah, and
but
you
was
look
that
it back,
hard?
you could be like, oh my gosh, that's so harsh.
Yeah.
You know,
at the time,
but
did it
at the
feel
same
that,
time,
or?
like you talked about companies, how like this and that.
Yeah.
It's just like you sort of like navigate your own situation and that current situation and time and era and people as it is.
Yeah.
And I think we were just passionately feeling we're all on the same page at the same time, and it just it feels shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you know, it's like, you know, he's going to figure out. He's done this for 10 years.
Yeah.
We're grateful.
He's
We're
a G.
appreciative.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
if it wasn't for him, like, you know, maybe my career wouldn't be like I'm forever thankful for the opportunity to film with him. But, you know, he kind of got kicked in the nuts to like recruit new people. He got new people. Like, end of the day, like, change is hard.
Change is hard. Yeah.
And it's like, maybe the way it went down, like, maybe wasn't the best thing, but we couldn't get our shit together until kind of late because, you know, there was a bunch of loose units trying to figure something out. So it's like, I think it was like fall. We're like, okay, like, we actually, like, can pull this off, you know?
Right.
So that was sort of the nature of that, because it just, there was a lot of moving parts to, like, figure out, like, okay, like, can we get Burton? Can we get this? And, just, you know?
Yeah.
So that was just sort of the holdback to, you know, it took a while to figure out, like, okay, like, we can pull this off. But
then once you did it, it must have been, you know, full steam ahead. It's like, great, we're doing this amazing thing, and it's going to be fun.
Like, I don't think we had grand plan. We didn't have, like, it was just like it's present. You know, we're like, we truly feel like this is cool. This is what we should be doing. We have the people that are the right people, and like, well, like, it's fine. Like, let's see what happens. You know, like, let's work hard, and everybody had a good work ethic, and we were professional in some manner.
Sure.
So, yeah, I never like. Never really worried about things, you know. I have a feel like if you feel like when things feel right and truly like you listen to yourself and it's like it's just this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
That's what you should go with, and good things will happen if you know if you truly are authentic and it feels like this is like the next thing. And same thing when I left Robot Food, I was like, okay, this feels like we're trying to now force ourselves.
Right.
I don't feel like it's organic anymore.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm not in it anymore. And me and Villa pulled the trigger and we're like, let's go to MacDog. And that was, again, it's like, no, that was cool. That was fun.
Yeah.
But now I feel like now I got to go here. And I do think that's important in your personal growth and your career to like change things and ride different people and work with different people. And you know, if you just do the same old, like, you know, you need to get inspiration from different outlets. So
yeah, and
Mac Dog's good to change
just
things, and
Mac Dog's just, you know,
yeah,
at that level of
and that was
film with
that was
Mac Dog,
epic. You know,
on.
like we had a blast for whatever 5 years, and then that run its course, and then it's just that's just how things go.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of relationships where it's like obviously no hard feelings.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm just
Yeah.
following where the path goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you have it? Because in my life, I've had these wild experiences with coincidences where I'm just like, that feels like the universe is telling me I gotta go this way. You know what I mean? Oh shit! It might be like seeing a number. Or, oh, that's whatever it is. Have you had those experiences yourself, where you're like,
maybe not
guided you a
just
little?
like that on the flick, but
Yeah.
like things like even like what I do now with the commercial photography, like that's just sort of like it came about and just sort of organically was shifting that way. That was not a plan. I didn't like, it's like as a whole, if you think about photographer, it's like, well, that's like good luck with that.
Yeah, that's not a career you can do. Right.
And so that was never like in my path. Obviously, I've seen very successful photographers, like I knew that it's doable, but I didn't think that way. It was more like a hobby, but one thing led to another, and then all of a sudden, like, it's sort of like you said, it came like, okay, like, no, like, this is what I want to do. I don't know about the business side. Like, I already had in like few clients that was like, okay, like I can get busy.
Yeah.
And so it was just one of those things, kind of a leap of faith. Like, hey, like, let's see where it goes, and it had worked out great.
You had a style.
I love what I'm doing. I love the brands that I work with. It gives me a lot of freedom, and I love working on project base. Have my own like sort of schedule and just figure out what I want to do, what I don't want to do, and so. But again, I think it comes from like listening to your gut and just like, okay, like, does this feel right? Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about like too much what the outcome will be.
Right.
More like, what is it like? How does this feel? Like, do I want to do this? Do I enjoy this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny, as a guy who just quit his job 4 months ago, and at first my plan was kind of like, I might have to just get a job right away, and it's 4 months in, I haven't even started to look for a job, but every once in a while someone will offer up like, hey, you think you could do this for our company or whatever? I'm like, that's a job. I don't know if I want that job, but I wouldn't have thought to apply for that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the creative side of things, like where someone's like, oh, this idea, like, could you help me build this idea? I get really excited. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like those creative spaces, especially like what you were talking about. I don't know if you had that at Mizu, but definitely at Robot Food, where people are kind of rallying around an idea and then traveling as a group and like, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should build a giant robot, or hey, we should do that, and following that, just that laughter and fun. And this is awesome. Yeah. I feel like, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? Why was I trading 40 hours a week for a steady paycheck? It feels like I just had the wrong idea.
Yeah, and I think it's fear.
Yeah.
Like, and that's when you jump into something, it's like, if you have fear, the outcome probably you won't be as like true to it.
Yeah.
If you worry about too much, rather than like, okay, like, let's just pursue this and see where it goes, and let's do things that will feel right. But I think fear holds us back a lot.
Yeah, because if you're fear-based,
and I get it.
Yeah,
like, it's
you
like,
see the things you're afraid of.
Yeah.
So if you're going into something fearful, right? Like if you were to, take that to snowboarding, it's like you see a feature that you're afraid of, and you can't see yourself landing it. It's like, I'm not doing that, right? You're gonna figure out the way to get the hell out of there, as opposed to, you going with confidence because you've got the skills, you've got the thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's what most people that choose to stay in 9 to 5s, and I was one of them. I'm 50 already before I figured this out. I always watched from the sidelines people who went and started their own businesses and did their own things, and was like, God, I wish I was one of them. But that fear of like, well, where am I going to get my check? If there's no check Friday, where am I going to get my money from?
Yeah.
And if I don't have money,
that's
then
real.
where am I going to get my food from?
Yeah.
What am I going to do for my kids? It is real. Yeah.
But like, you started this, you know,
Mhm.
it was a passion thing. You didn't think
Fun.
you were going to
Yeah.
make money.
Oh,
it's
God,
just fun. Like, you're having chat, and then, which is smart because you're doing it at the same time as you're still earning a paycheck. And then,
Yes.
then you're able to get to a point where it's like, and that's sort of like what happened to me with photography. Like, I was shooting all the Mizu stuff. And then I did like a small little thing for DC. I did another one for so-and-so and so-and-so. And then it's like, I kind of had like, that was sort of my like a little side hustle. And then that sparked like, okay, hey, what would this look like if I went full time? And so like, I mean, I think what you did was correct. Maybe you could have done it earlier, but like, you know, at least.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like really push for people. Like, for like photography was always part of my life. Like,
Right.
my whole, like, I've been shooting photos since I was 15.
Yeah, there's photos on
And
your wall that
yeah,
are from
like I
you as a
had
kid.
film.
Yeah.
I had like the Nikon FM2. I had a Hasselblad. I had like, I love that like, it was
Rad.
I always had a camera, and I have stacks and stacks of photos of like the Robo Food days, and like, it's super cool, like just going through some of that. But I think just having hobbies and passions, because you never know where it takes you, you know.
Right,
And it's like,
right.
now I'm doing this for a living, which I never thought I would. But I think some of those things that I did in the past is sort of like kind of in the background was sort of prepping me for what I do now.
Yeah, of course.
But-
Yeah, I spent a long amount of my 30s. My thing was, getting drunk, going to the bar, hanging with friends, which is fun. Like going to a beach, watching the sunset, tilting beers. That's not a hobby that is probably going to lead to something independent one day. It's actually going to cost you money, and then starts to bite into your hobbies, right? Like choose destinations where I could snowboard where the booze was cheap, and then sooner or later it got to be a bit of a problem for me personally. Just in that it was taking away from the shit that I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the podcast that gave it back to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the podcast that gave me back this feeling of like, oh, I like this better than feeling like shit.
Yeah, it gives you purpose.
Yeah.
You know? And
that's
and
it.
I think that's, and for me now, like, feeling good is like, I'm grateful. Like, I do, some of my work is photo work is in cycling. I've worked with a couple different cycling brands. So like, you know, like I was shooting, we did a campaign, and then I jumped on this kind of like a training ride, and we did like 75 miles with these guys, and I like, no problem.
Yeah.
Riding
yeah.
with my camera, or like, oh, hey, like, let's do this, like, want to do this like a multi-day hike, or like let's go.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
be able to like just jump on like different experiences, and just to feel good and have energy to do cool shit, you know, like,
Totally.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this thing brought me to Snow Summit. I remember seeing the Varney Vertical Air Show shit when I was a kid and being like, oh, I wish one day I could go there. It's just such a warm feeling inside that I'm like following, that I found this. Because I always knew the formula. You follow your passion. You do what you love. You won't work a day in your life. Like, they say that. But in real life, you don't know what your passion is.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, well, I
and
can't
it
snowboard.
can be kind of cliche, like, just follow your passion.
Right.
But,
Right.
But I if you want to be happy what you do, like, I think it's important to enjoy what you do, why you wait, and have purpose. Like,
Yeah.
And there might be times where you might have to do things that you don't really enjoy, but as long as you have a plan on the back end, you know, like, okay, I might have to grind here for this, but then I can go full time here. Like, that's fine. But yeah, and I don't know. I looking back, one thing I'm grateful that I always had something that I truly enjoyed and loved to do since I was a kid, you know. So it's like, you know, whether it was snowboarding or working for my company Mizu, and it's,
you
know,
actually
the
loved
photo stuff,
that.
and it's like, and just feel very fortunate that just being able to kind of be jumping on one thing to another. How the hell, and honestly, for me, it has taken a long time to even say that I'm a photographer. It was really tough for me, because just because you come from skating and snowboarding, where you kind of you have to be legit.
Yeah, you don't get to claim it.
You can't just I'm a pro snowboarder.
No, you can't.
And you look at the photo space, and Zacher or Curtis or Rocker, these guys are they have 25 years experience, and they know ins and outs, and they're super knowledgeable, and they just true professionals.
Live and breathe it.
Why am I some snowboard kid doing this
right?
And so it's it was sort of a battle, a little bit, just to be
that imposter syndrome thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is what I do, and even now, I've done some pretty big national, international brands, and you feel good the work you've done, and then you go to another one, it's I don't know, do I have it? Am I good at it? It's
wow.
Shit. But that's why I think working with those little projects, just to, where you can be free and have freedom to be creative, I think it's it kind of brings you back to do what you love and be able to try things too, which is really valuable. I have quite a few brands that I do consistent work, and they kind of let me to run with the creative too, and
rad.
And so therefore there's not a lot of pressure, versus when you show up on a production where it's 20 people and there's clients and they're looking at what you doing, oh my God, do I have this, but
I mean, if you weren't self-critical, then you probably make shit that's not that good. You want to make stuff that's good.
And I think it is coming from skateboarding and snowboarding, where you're kind of hypercritical and never satisfied, never like your stuff.
It's not perfect,
right?
You're
just
you're
oh
looking
gosh,
at the imperfections versus looking at someone says, "Oh, nice part," and you go, "Oh yeah, fuck." Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing I've learned from photography is you have to be brave to just jump on opportunities, and and also knowing that you don't need to know everything. You can hire people.
Yep.
Lighting, I know basics. I use my strobe a lot and do stuff, but I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
But if I need an expert, I'll hire the expert.
That's cool.
To help you. And same thing, whether it's editing or any sort of critical work, I do production too, but if the job is certain way, I know that this is way over my pay grade, I need the producer, and so just knowing that maybe sometimes this job is worth it. Maybe I'll take a little bit of hit, but I hire somebody that will help me and take that stress away from me.
Totally.
And just hiring somebody that I don't need to worry about that side of things.
Yeah.
It takes a a lot of pressure off, and just knowing that hey, and I have a pretty good network of people too. We have a little photographer, a few guys that we go back and forth, and whether it's the pricing or budgeting, or hey, I have to shoot, I need to shoot it this way, this is the kind of the lighting dilemma I have, what do you think, and we go back and forth, and then you go these guys are best what they do in their field, so it's you're really good to have sort of mentors, and vice versa, you're able to help them sometimes, and it's just have that dialogue that just having people in your corner.
Did you have that throughout the years of your snowboarding career, somebody take you under their wing at Burton or anywhere along the line, and then later on you started doing that for other people, or was it kind of more
there
individualistic?
was always riders, like, Joni Mäkinen was like kind of my mentor at the Standard Films. Close, finish. I didn't speak any English, so just having like somebody in your corner. And then Steve Astafan was like, he was from day one, like he was like the guy who just took care of all my stuff. Like, my sponsors and like all that stuff. So he took care of that, which was huge. And then Burton obviously always had people, but like business side, it was always Steve. And then through Steve, I got to meet like more like the financial people and like do the right things, and but yeah, I think it's always important, like whatever you do, just have people in your corner who look out for yourself, and they have your best interests, because that's huge. Like nothing's fun on your own. Like it's really
all by yourself. Nobody
and like
to travel
what I was
with
saying about photography too, like even like creative ideas. Like sometimes we just go and like, hey, what are you doing next week? Like, let's go shoot surfing.
Sick.
Let's just do it for fun. And like one of the friends like I was shooting, he's a surf photographer, like super well known in that space, and we went to shoot some cycling and like play with strobes and try different things, and he was a little bit out of his element, and he was like, no way, this is sick, like whoa, like we created some really cool shit. And but now you have that, like you're inspired, like holy shit, like you still can create and learn, and
in the space. That's sick. Who were your guys that you traveled with on the Burton team? Like, who was your, like, did you compete still on the Burton team? Was that like a lot of your career was still competing?
Yeah, still. I signed with Burton 2000, so it was like U.S. Opens and X Games. So I did that until like 2007, 8.
Yeah.
So that was like my competing era while I was filming. We never traveled as a Burton team. Like it was never like that.
Right.
Really, it was like we would go on to photo shoots, but that's kind of it. And then you just travel whoever you're filming with.
Oh, so you didn't travel?
No. So we would go like the first photo shoot that I was at Burton. We went to Argentina, Las Leñas, and it was like Trevor and Keir and Terrier and Sean White and that whole crew, So it's like, and Ramon DeMarchi, DCP, like that.
So sick.
And those were cool times, because like I got to snowboard with like Terrier, or like riding with Tadashi. Like I honestly think he's probably the best snowboarder ever lived.
Nice.
Yeah. So like just having that those experiences, but most of our Burton travel was just getting wasted, honestly. It was always like wherever it was, like the World Tour or the movie tour or photo shoot. It was just like it was mayhem, more or less. Like less snowboarding, more just party time.
What an era. I was talking with a few people over the course of the podcast about how if you were the strict, if you didn't participate in the party stuff and just were strict, I gotta compete tomorrow, like even if you won, it was kind of like, well, that guy didn't really win.
And it's funny because I was kind of that guy at the end of my career. Like we'd go to photo shoots and I was just kind of over it. Like I didn't want to party or drink, and everybody's getting hammered. I'm like, fuck, I've been doing this for 15 years. Like I do not I don't want to get I was beyond past that. And so and I was definitely probably that boring guy. Like, what the fuck? Who's that? What's up with these two? Like, it's fucking boring. It's but you have kids and I don't know. You kind of it's like I don't mind doing this stuff, but snowboarding and let's get after it. But I don't if you I bounce home. I'm
gonna go hit the gym. I'm gonna hit the sauna, and I'm gonna fucking zonk out. We're getting up early tomorrow.
It's just it's
I see it. That's for sure. That happens as you get older. When you're young, you could crash in a hotel room
Yeah.
with 20 dudes.
Yeah.
And mayhem's
Yeah.
happening all night. You wake up, marker all over your face, and you're feeling shitty, and you go and snowboard and you have a fun time.
Yeah.
When you're having to leave your family and go, it becomes like a bit of a job. Like, it is a job. Like, that's your actual job. You're like, okay, I got to go to this fucking thing. And you just want to go back to your room, call your wife. All right, I'll be home in 3 more sleeps or whatever.
And it was sort of cool because at the end, like, Curtis was like having a kid. Jeremy had a kid. I had a kid. So we've had that sort of like our like a boring crew, you know, like a bunch of dads. So
I love
it's like
the boring
but then
crew.
like once the boring dudes start getting clipped, like, you know, Curtis, you know, and then, you know, then it was just like sort of but it's like natural evolution, right? Like like it's just time, you know, like and I think I think too, like once you get older, like you're like, I look back on myself, like you're so critical and like judgy and all this stuff. It's what's it? But once you get older, you realize it's like, man, like you're just, if somebody does something that like really are passionate and happy, like what like JP was saying about dancing, and like, dude,
that was crazy. That was
so
awesome.
Cool. Like I have no, like, I think you shed some of that stuff where you realize it's like, you know, like if you should do whatever it is. To for yourself to be where you want to be and be happy. Like whether it's partying, if that truly is what you want to do.
Totally.
Like, good for you.
That connection with
but
your
like,
friends.
I'm not gonna judge you like for this.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, especially like once you've had kids and, you know, you go through teenagers and, you know, it's like, you know, I think you just get a little bit of different perspective. And you know, I love cycling. Like most people probably hate cycling. Spandex,
I don't even know.
Like,
I mean,
I couldn't care less.
I
love it. I still like, sometimes I post some like photo, like something about bike. He's like, I get like, why the fuck you wearing that shit? And I'm like, dude,
so judgy.
I don't care. Like, this is what I do. This is like, if you don't agree with me, that's totally fine.
Yeah, it has
like,
nothing to do with you. Yeah, that's something that as I get older, I really, the things I worried so much about as a kid, like, oh, I don't want anyone to know. Like, I don't want to be that. I don't want them to judge me for this or that or that. Now it's like, dude, this is what you get. What you see is what you get. This is who I am. And if you have a problem with it, it's actually your problem.
Exactly.
And that was.
Anyways, I guess we're just live and learn, right?
Live and learn. Yeah. Well, it's obviously you learned a lot because where you're living now and how authentically you're able to live your life, like the struggles don't seem like you're not. I don't know. I don't want to project on your life, but it looks like you're aligned with, you know, giving yourself the ability to do what you like to do. That's super sick.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm very, very lucky. I have a wife that I love, and we've been together for 20 years now.
Wow, congratulations.
Got 2 kids and good kids.
Man.
And
excellent.
We got a dog, Elvis, and live simple life, and really happy, you know. So
that's dope. I should shout my wife out here too, because without her, this doesn't happen. No, I wouldn't become this person without the support of like such a loving, supportive wife.
And I have to say, like, I met Zoe. It was the Afterbang year, 2003. That's when I got hurt, and that's when things went kind of like, we actually got time to hang out, and I have to say, like, it was probably a huge part of like her that I've sort of got my shit together.
Oh, that's very rad.
Because it was, you know, you're just, you know, a clown out there, and then all of a sudden you have like somebody who cares about you and is smarter than you and can help navigate through these things. It's like, you know, it's really, it's important, you know.
That's again, lucky, which is awesome. Are you still in touch with your parents? Your dad's still around? Your mom's still around?
My dad passed away last summer.
Oh, sorry to hear that,
unfortunately,
dude.
but my mom is still there. My sister lives there, and it's cool because now they can see my son play soccer there,
That's crazy.
which is
Yeah,
crazy.
they must love that.
So it's really kind of cool how it's gone like that way around, you know, like he's there and they can be part of his life, and also we can start going back there, probably go more in the summer and spring, spend time, watch his games and stuff like that. So
Rad.
yeah.
And you were saying before we turned on the mics, you're still getting 20 days a year pow surfing or up on the snow. Like it's still a part of your lexicon. You still go and do it.
We got a little place in Mammoth. We go there a lot, and mostly pow surfing, split-boarding,
Rad.
carving.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of crowds.
Not a lot of
right?
airtime these days,
Not a lot
but
of
you know,
airtime.
I try
Yeah.
to do like a front three a year.
Really, that's
I
where
don't-
you're at. Well,
I
now
have-
I don't feel so bad because
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
like I'm at trying to just grab my board now.
Yeah.
Like fuck,
Yeah, no,
dude,
I
it's
don't grab my
crazy.
board anymore. It's front three, no grab.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yep.
like now grabbing it seems like it's trying a little too hard.
Maybe
so
I
it's
should
just a,
just let go of the grabbing.
yeah, for sure.
Let
it
it
feels
go.
way better.
Just a
It's
nice
like, wow, like
floaty.
you might get a cramp or something. It's like I don't know. It's just let it loose.
I love it. Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, we hiked up a couple of days ago, and I was like, yeah, we had a photographer with us and everything. I'm like, yeah, if I come off that thing, I'll just grab my board and tweak it towards you. And then I went, and like my board wasn't anywhere near where I could grab it. If I
That's
had
why you
just
need to start doing yoga.
Yes. Oh yeah, that too. Right. Yeah, I mean, as I get older, I 100% see the value in that stuff. 100%. Well, you've been very generous with your time.
No, I appreciate it. It was good to see you, man.
Absolutely
Thanks
great
for
to see
coming
you
over.
too,
And
I'd love to get to shred with you sometime too. Maybe if I'm
yeah,
up Mammoth when you're
I
up
actually
there.
just
Go for a split hike or something. I don't even split board. So.
I just saw some. I think it was Brewsty's photos from like Europe snowboarding, and I have to say, for the first time in like long time, I'm like, oh, that fucking looks fun.
Yeah. Oh
like,
yeah.
Epic early season POW.
Oh,
Like
sick. I just
yeah,
saw
you
Johan
can't beat that.
Malkowski
Yeah,
did something
so like,
somewhere
yeah,
too.
I'd be. I think I'm ready.
To do some trips to
Yeah,
go get
a couple.
some.
I think it'd be cool. I think last year, so I work with Fat Tire with Dave Subnetsky
Sick.
and those guys. They had a trip to Boldface last spring, and
Yep.
it was like it was perfect, but it just didn't
Didn't
photo
line up for you.
shoots and
Yep.
like I said,
Yep.
I can't cancel this. It's too
Yeah.
much of a stress here, and it's just like it's just how it is. Yeah.
But
And
you
like
might get
and that back to like rubber food, like we have this email chain that it's been going on for 15 years, like try to do something, and it's always like Benedict is like, oh, I'm working on this thing, and like someone like Bobby's doing this or whatever. It's like, oh, Villa is doing a roaster or whatever. Like
Yes.
try to navigate like people's lives.
You guys are
and just
all over the
it's
world.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like I think we'll do it once we like fully retired. Like we're all like bald old people, and then we're just like go carve some turns. We'll get together one day. But
Yeah, the generation above you is doing that. Is doing that now. You're seeing guys get together with the old crew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool to see.
That's dope.
Yeah, and
It's
like
so
I've
dope.
seen some like what Dave's been doing with the New Belgium, like they're doing like the Alaska trips where, some of the like Jamie and I think like Hetzel and like just
Sick.
it's cool to have like, so there are still some of those happening and it's awesome to see guys that truly like. I was just talking to Downing, he's moving to Tahoe again
Sick.
for the winter, and he was telling me how they get together with Dave and Mike and like
Yeah, I rode
Tim
with them
and,
last
like,
year. It was
just,
insane.
like, just to froth, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's sick. Like we
Yeah.
we got these spots, and we're like, dude, we can best runs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I just hearing that passion and that stoke, like it's like, oh yeah, that sounds actually pretty fun. Like just want to be part of that
Yeah.
that energy, you know. Like,
Oh, hell yeah.
Like it would be dope. But yeah.
It'll come back.
Yeah.
The timing will
Yeah.
line up, and
Yeah,
it'll
for
be
sure.
sick. Right on,
Yeah.
UC.
Oh,
Thanks
man,
again.
appreciate it.
Hey, thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
sir.
me in your home. Awesome.
Enjoy your Cali trip.
FNRad shoutouts this week to UC Oksanen and his whole family. Special thanks this week to Jacob and Josh for rolling down to Fortune Sound Club to watch me do comedy. That was fun. The 3 local mountains here in Vancouver need snow, but all are doing their best to have fun stuff for us to hit on hill. Seymour built their very first hike park. Amazing. Thank you. Grouse has a couple of chairs running and amazing park features. And Cypress Mountain has top to bottom runs open on both sides, plus a fun little park as well. Thank you all for doing all that hard work for us. If you want a free sample of New Greens, simply tag New Greens and 2 of your friends in any FNRad post, and we'll get you those greens. Be sure to come back next week for more FNRad snowboarding, presented by Skyview Campers and brought to you by FNRad Productions.